One thing you probably just didn't know about each and every single one of the Treyarch Zombies maps. Go and let me know down in the comment section how many of these did you know and how many of them were a surprise, and even maybe leave your little known facts about something in the comment section also. Nacht Der Untoten. There is a wall buy for the Thompson, but the price is incorrect. When you walk up to it, it says 1500. But when you actually buy it, it's only 1200 points, and then when you actually have the gun, you can see that when it asks you if you want to buy ammo or the price of the gun, it shows it proper at 1200 points. Verruckt. The names/nicknames of all four of the Marines are actually known, and what they are Paxton Ridge, John Banana, Smokey, and of course, as we all know, Tank Dempsey. Shino Numa. The Zombies map to have the first ever Zombies radio, but that's not it. What's more important to me is that in this radio, it gives us a set of coordinates, and the coordinates it gives us are to Area 51 and the same location that the Tunguska meteor hit in Siberia. Of course, this was hinting at future maps like Moon and also Call of the Dead. The Riese. There are multiple boards next to each of the teleporters that have images of zombies on them, but what is interesting about these images is that these seem to hint at future Zombies maps. We see one with zombies at a theater, hinting at Kino, zombies standing next to a lighthouse, of course being Call of the Dead, and there's a couple more, but the one I want to focus on here is an image that seems like it's to a map unlike all the other ones was never used, because in this image we see a zombie standing next to the Eiffel Tower, giving more evidence for that Cod Zombies map that was supposed to be DLC 4 in Black Ops. Kino Der Toten. After teleporting from the Pack-Punch machine, you were teleported into multiple different rooms, but the one that's interesting for this one here is one that teleports you to a room that looks very similar to a room in 5. What's even more interesting from there is that you could actually launch this replica rocket off the table. 5. The Pentagon Thief could still take your gun even if you're downed, and it's not your downed gun either, it's the last gun you were using. Ascension. In the first strike poster, of course the poster to Ascension, we see a bald guy holding the thunder gun next to Takeo, Dempsey, and Nikolai. Now I'm sure you guys know at this point that this was actually Gersh. But did you know that we also learned that this actually happened? Sometime in the timeline, Richtofen took off to go do his own thing that we still don't know what it is, and also the rest of Ultimus teamed up with Gersh to go do their own thing. Call of the Dead. The reason Group 935 built a facility in the middle of Siberia is because it was right next to where the Tunguska meteor fell on the Earth. And in the lore of the game, this is incredibly important because with this meteor, it brought Element 115, and here was the very first time that humans came into contact with Element 115. Shangri-La. Richtofen has actually been to Shang before the events of Shangri-La. We know this from not only radios, but also when you were doing the Easter egg, an altar is revealed, and on this altar, Richtofen's name is on it, kind of hinting at the idea that maybe Richtofen tricked the locals into believing he was something more than he actually is. Moon. We actually had an alternate comic book loading screen revealed for this map. Now, unlike all of the other alternate loading screens that we got before that were revealed in real life comic books, instead this one was revealed to us in Treyarch's video, Treyarch Zombies: A Brief History. And this video was released in 2015 before Black Ops 3 even came out. And this was our very first hint at a possible Zombies Chronicles by giving us this alternate loading screen. Tranzit. There's actually a shortcut from the gas station to town that can only be taken in that direction. You cannot use this shortcut to go from town to gas station or farm. It has to be from gas station or farm to town. NukeTown Zombies. The map was originally going to be called Nuked with the D at the end and then Town Zombies. It wasn't going to be just NukeTown Zombies at the end. Now that's not the craziest thing in the world, but what is a little bit more interesting is that with the same place that we learned what the original name of this map was going to be, we also got some concept art that showed a very different looking NukeTown Zombies, looking a lot more like Alpha Omega than what we finally got in the NukeTown Zombies map. Die Rise. Now, people think the first time that our characters were trapped in the time loop going through the same events over and over again was a map like Mob of the Dead, but we actually know from the intro in Die Rise that these characters were trapped in the time loop also. We know this because of in the cutscene we see all the characters die and all of a sudden there's a purple flash and next thing you hear is Richtofen saying, "Accept your fate, begin anew," and they do it all over again. Mob of the Dead. Now, if you look at all of the perks around the map, if you just look at them, they'll start to flicker in and out of reality, or at the very least from regular color to looking black and white. Now, there's actually an exception to this with Electric Cherry. Electric Cherry is the only perk on the entire map that does not flicker at all and stays its regular colors the entire time. Buried. Buried was the last map to have a comic book loading screen, but that didn't stop the tradition of teasing the next map on the next page. So what is it that Buried's next page teaser actually teased? Well, if we look at it, it's actually a blueprint with the 935 logo on it. Now this of course didn't hint at anything to do with the actual next map being Origins, but people believe that maybe that this was a hint at the Giant as it also had a blueprint loading screen. Now they don't really match up, but that's the best we got. Origins. Originally in the intro, Samantha's voice sounded a lot different and it was very distorted and just didn't sound good at all.
It began long ago on the battlefields of the Great War.
This of course was changed, whether it be because of fan backlash at the time or Treyarch just thought they were being real secretive with their final map and they didn't want to reveal Samantha's voice in the intro that they released before the map actually came out, because soon after that when the map actually drops we could all hear in the intro that Samantha's voice is the same voice that we hear her talk with in the map. Shadows of Evil. There's a dead guy on the top of the canals, and this guy's a little important because if we look at him, he's been stabbed with a knife and he's also holding a letter, but that letter has the letter M on it. And who it turns out to be is the reporter that we heard in the radios in Shadows of Evil. But more than that, we learn how he ended up dying, because he had been working for someone who was named Mr. Wrapped, but that turned out to be the Shadow Man. So Richtofen intercepted him and he took the package that he had, and that package happened to be the summoning key. But this didn't work out for Richtofen because before that he got a letter from someone with the letter M, as we see, and he started to freak out and he attacked Richtofen, and because of this Richtofen says he acted in self-defense and ended up killing him. The Giant. There are multiple ciphers on the map that hint at every single map in the Black Ops 3 Zombies season. Ciphers that hinted at the Eisendrache, Zetsubou no Shima, Gorod Krovi, and of course the final map, Revelations. But what's interesting is that there was actually a fifth cipher that till this day hasn't been solved, and this has led people to theorize of what this cipher could have been hinting at if it was solved, and many people believe that maybe it was hinting at a Zombies Chronicles from the get-go, but we'll never know until this cipher is properly solved. The Eisendrache. When the Eisendrache was originally announced, it was actually not called the Eisendrache. Instead, what it was called was the Eisendrache N, which the only difference between the two is that there is an N at the end. which may not seem like the biggest deal in the world, but that's when the German speakers came in and told everybody that that N actually changes what the words mean entirely. What they wanted these words to mean was the Iron Dragon, but because of this single letter mistake that they did, it actually translated into the Iron Kite. Very much not as cool as the Iron Dragon, I think we could agree. Now there's still evidence of this, even though Treyarch tried to delete it off the face of the earth, because it's still on the map itself. In Spawn, you could look at this poster and you can see that it's spelled the Eisendrache with an N instead of without it. Zetsubou no Shima. Division 9 is actually the group that created the dragons that we see in Gorod Krovi. In fact, they worked with Group 935 to send them these dragons for they could break the stalemate that had been going on in Stalingrad. Gorod Krovi. In the boss fight arena, you could actually look outside of the map and you could see something going on in this room that is barely visible. But to get a really good look at what's going on, you could actually no-clip in there and you could see exactly what's happening. And what appears to be is kind of a meeting with these stuffed animals and also this mannequin. This has been theorized to be the kids and Monty, but who knows, maybe we'll never actually find out what it is. Revelations. Originally, this map was supposed to have the Ray Gun Mark III in it. We know this because we have multiple quotes from all 4 of the playable characters that refer to them using the Ray Gun Mark III. Blood of the Dead. The bird that pops up multiple times during the main Easter egg is actually the weasel. Classified. It is believed that the Pentagon Thief originally was supposed to be on this version of the map also. The evidence for this is that originally found in the files there was the whole model of the Pentagon Thief. He was later added as an operator, but it is unclear if that was the intent for him from the get-go or if he was just cut. Voyage of Despair. The upgraded versions of the Kraken are actually named after mythological beings from across the globe, whether it be Jormungandr from Norse mythology, Inganyamba from South African mythology, Akorokomiu from Ain mythology, or even Leviathan from the Bible itself. They're all based off of these mythological beings that also have something to do with the ocean or just water. 9/Dead of the Night because it applies to both of them. Originally, 9 was supposed to be DLC 1 and Dead of the Night was supposed to be a launch map. But unfortunately, there was issues with the voice actors for Dead of the Night, and because of that, they knew they weren't going to be able to release the map by launch. So the decision was made that Dead of the Night would become DLC 1 and 9 would become a launch map. Ancient Evil. The order that you enter the Greek symbols in the wall to trigger the mid-Easter egg cutscene is actually the same order that in the intro Scarlet puts those same symbols in the entrance to Delphi. In fact, this is how people solve the step. Alpha Omega. Many people don't know this, but it actually takes place on the same exact day that Moon takes place, on October 13th, 2025. Nacht Der Toten. As you probably know, at the end of the cutscene, Pablo Marinus is sent to the Great War, but do you know why? Well, it gets a little complicated, but stick with me. If we look at the original timeline, Pablo has always gone back to the Great War, but what he normally does is he's there as an observer and nothing else. But this time, it's different. This time, he was sent back to help Richthofen escape the Great War, and he buys Richthofen the time he needs in order to teleport away from the Great War. But before Richthofen does, Pablo gives him the elemental gem to the Fire Staff. And of course, this explains exactly how Richthofen escaped the Great War and ended up in that cryogenic pod in Blood of the Dead, and why he's even in that map to begin with. The Maschine. There's evidence that the OG perk system was actually going to return in Die Maschine. We know this because there was some concept art released of Die Maschine, and in this we see that Quick Revive was in the spawn room, which is pretty significant because Quick Revive being in the spawn room is really important to the OG perk system because that's how you do the self-reviving thing on solo. Firebase Z. Did you know during the Easter egg when Peck starts doing his little dance, there's a song that plays that is quite familiar to some Origins players because it's the exact same song that plays when you open up the Ice Staff's portal. Nacht Der Toten. Klaus was actually originally built by Dr. Gray, but when she was building him, she realized that he was kind of overly aggressive and even broke one of the researcher's hands. And it's because of that she put him away in order to try to figure out exactly why he was so aggressive. But that didn't stop the director from straight up stealing Klaus from her, and the director had him sent to the CIA black site in Berlin. And this is exactly why he's on the map Nacht Der Toten. Forsaken. In the ending cutscene, we see a picture of Eddie's family, which is pretty crazy in its own story implications there. But did you know that the image that is used for Eddie's family is actually a Getty image or just a stocked photo with Richthofen's face photoshopped on it?